Dr. Sharif Abdullah offers a unique, hopeful, and visionary perspective on the persistent challenges of our time. His perspective is shaped by his urban upbringing of poverty and violence, his Ivy League education, and his work with impacted communities in America and in 45 countries around the world. His spiritual outlook is rooted in the consciousness of dozens of religions, faith traditions, and spiritual practices. Sharif offers this unique viewpoint, helping us chart a course that explains where we've been, where we are now, and how we get to a positive future that works for all living beings.
Hello, Sharif here. And today I want to talk to you again about vision, but a different kind of vision. We've talked before about how we are vision starved, how we're future starved. And we talk about most of the visions that are being fed to us by Hollywood, etc., are basically apocalyptic visions. These are places you don't want to be or don't want to live. If you look how the average person lived in a movie like Mad Max, you don't want to be there. I'm going to talk to you about something different, though. Some time ago, I wrote 2 books, The Chronicles of the Upheavals. Actually, I wrote that 6 years ago. And the companion book, the second book in the series, is The Chronicles of the Awakening. That one's about 6 days old. It is just being published now. And I think there'll be some information in the comments section for you can get a discounted copy of it while it's still in its pre-publication form. But this series is something very, very different from what the normal doom and gloom, the normal Star Wars, we're fighting the evil empire, etc. This is for our close-in future, the next 100 years. And this looks at how we progress from the state of consciousness that we're in right now, that humanity is in right now. And a adolescent, actually close to infantile state of consciousness where all I'm thinking about is me, what's good for me, what's the focus of my entire life is creating a world that works for me. What happens if a group of people actually take seriously the task of creating a world that works for all living beings? Well, that's what the Chronicles series is about. So the first book, The Chronicles of the Upheavals, actually chronicles the upheavals. All the possible things that could possibly happen to humanity, they all happen, and they all happen at once. And we struggle with the collapse of our institutions, the collapse of our societies as we try to deal with this brave new world. From this collapse, though, there's a group of people who say, we are going to be the ones that envision and then enact a future in which all can live and all can thrive. And they do that by creating these things that we call awakening centers. This would be like a small village, and the village has enough food and enough resources and enough of a goal that, again, they're not focusing just on what's good for us in this village, but how do we expand this consciousness to encompass the rest of our planet. They begin the development of a planetary consciousness. While there's lots and lots of old style consciousness that is trying their very best to drag them down. So they have to deal with real life situations. You have a thriving village, and there's 10,000 people on the other side of your gate that are hungry, and they're going to come in, they're going to take your fence down, and they're going to take everything you've got. How do you stop them from doing that non-violently? Now, lots of us have strategies on how to stop them violently. Just get a whole bunch of guns, just booby trap everything, have them blow up, etc. That's called old consciousness. You can't create a new consciousness with old consciousness. So, how do you bring about a new society, bring about a new consciousness while the old consciousness is dying? You've heard me give the metaphor of the caterpillar and the butterfly. While the caterpillar is dissolving, this new consciousness is being born. So there's lots and lots of very short chapters in the book. And the purpose of the short chapter is to get you to think, how would I face this issue? Here's an issue that we've got right now in our society. With all of the global climate change, we've got too much water in one area and not enough water in another area. How do you move the water? Well, they have a solution in the book. Is it the best solution? Is it even an adequate solution? Is it a optimal solution? That's for us to decide. Like how right now, because we have this water situation right now. Is that the best way to do it? Are there other ways to do this? We have security issues right now. And in our society, we say, okay, well, one way to solve the security issue is give more money to the police. And somebody else says, no, we have to defund the police. Both of those are bad ideas. Both of those are ideas that are based on the limited consciousness of the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. We live in the 21st century. We have to have a 21st century consciousness. In the books, in the first book, we're following these young people as they are growing in their own consciousness and their own awareness of themselves, of their friends, and their role in this larger society that they're living in and interacting with. So the new book, the Chronicles of the Awakening, is the next step in this process. In the new book, the folks who were teenagers in the first book are now, they're in their 30s and 40s, and the upheavals have died down, and the new society is taking root. But the remnants of the old society, they want to go backwards. They want to go backwards into the status quo. They want to go back to wasting water, because my grandpappy did that. They want to go back to wasting resources. That's the way we live. We want more gasoline for our cars. We want to do all the other stuff that deteriorated our society. We want to start it all over again. You've heard me say the thing that's changing, that will change our society, is not our technology. The thing that will change our society is our consciousness. So in reading these books, you get to see consciousness lived out loud. Okay, you get to see consciousness in operation. There's some elements of consciousness, as we are growing into a new kind of humanity. There's some interesting paths that we can grow into, and I won't. This is not. There are no spoilers in this video, but there are some directions in consciousness that people have written me and say, I don't want that. I don't want to live in a world that is an advanced form of consciousness, but I don't want to live in that world. And I say to them, well, neither do I, but now you get to make a choice. You get to choose. I want to face my future this way. I don't want to face my future that way. Without that choice, we sit back, we munch popcorn, and we watch all of this stuff unfold. And the unfoldment of it, I think, is going to be definitely to our detriment if we're sitting back being non-involved. That's how you get to Mad Max. And again, I don't think that's where you want to be. So our challenge is how do we create the stepping stones to get to this world that works for all living beings. Holding the idea is great, but you got to do more than that. Saying I'm going to create a world that works for me and my family and friends. Well, that's great, but it's not enough. Holding the value of a world that works for all living beings is the way that we have to go. Again, I've had people with the first book who said, I don't like some of your security challenges. Like what are, how you deal with security. Okay, you tell me, how are you going to deal with security? I don't like the way that you're talking about growing food. Okay, you tell me how we grow food. I don't like the way that you do transportation. That seems really hard. Okay, you tell me how we do transportation. I'm hoping that the Chronicles of the Upheavals and now the new book, the Chronicles of the Awakening, will be stimulating for you to sit down with a group of friends and talk about this stuff. And say, this is how we see our society. This is how we see our next steps. This is how we put together all of our elements so that those elements will work. So as you can see, the Chronicles of the Upheaval is not a small book. It's a very easy read because of a very unique format and design, and Chronicles of the Awakening is about the same, and about the same size, and together these things this will play out in some ways that I hope will stimulate us into thinking about the society that works for all. I encourage you to get the books. I encourage you to sign up for them right now so that during our, while the pre-order discount is in place, and then read them. Another thing that people have reported is it's hard to put the book down. I actually, one of my issues was it's really hard to edit the book because I kept reading it. I mean, you can read a chapter once, then you can read it again, and then you can read it. It's like, oh wait, I'm getting some more out of this. It's designed to get your mental processes rolling. Hope you like it. I hope you like this video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the Patreon button so that you can actually support this work. Send the URL to somebody else and get the conversation rolling. So I thank you and talk to you again.
You are invited to participate in the discussions and activities that will define a positive future for all. We are at the cusp of the expansion of our human consciousness beyond the limitations of our past. Together, we can envision a world that embraces our human potential. Together, we can create a world that can truly work for all living beings.